Hi, everybody. I hope you've had a good week. I have. It's great to see you again. This week at Parkdale, we are celebrating the birthday of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I'm sure you've talked about him in school. We've certainly talked about him at church before. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was a man who lived in the United States, and he's what we call a civil rights activist. Now, basically what that means is he was trying to get people in the country to understand that we shouldn't judge people by the color of their skin, that black and white, brown, red, we're all the same underneath. I think that's kind of what Jesus has been trying to teach us about in the Bible, don't you? Yeah. In fact, the Bible tells us not to judge each other. It doesn't matter what makes us different. Differences are sometimes what makes us special. Speaking of being special, I know it's hard to think ahead to what you're going to be when you grow up, especially if you're only 5 or 6 or 10 years old now. The future seems a long way. But the good news is, God knows us and He has a plan for us. Now, that means that God knows us better than our best friends, better than our parents, better even than we know ourselves. And although the road to where we want to get to be in the future may be kind of rocky at times, the good news is God is there with us, leading the way, helping us along, encouraging us. That's a pretty good message to take with us, isn't it? Now, Martin did a lot of important talking, and he brought a lot of people alongside him in the civil rights movement. And Jesus did the same thing. You know, when he started out preaching the good news of God, it was just him. And slowly but surely, he started to commission disciples to come along beside him. And you know all of the disciples, we've talked about them. But today I want to concentrate on a couple, Philip and Nathaniel. Now, Jesus could have gone right to them directly and said, I want you as my disciple, come along beside me, listen to my teachings, and then take your new knowledge and go out and talk to other people about my message, about the good news of God. Well, he did that with Philip, but he didn't do it with Nathaniel. He got Philip to help bring Nathaniel on side. And just like in the civil rights movement, Nathaniel had some prejudices to get over. Who came from where and who did what? But Nathaniel eventually came alongside, largely because Jesus told him something about himself that Nathaniel knew nobody could know. And Jesus wanted to convince him that, well, it's not just magic. I know you, and God knows you like nobody else. Well, that was a pretty impressive message, and it affected Nathaniel in exactly the way Jesus wanted. He became a believer and a disciple. Well, I think that's pretty cool. Think about what we could do if we joined in that. Now, what would that look like? We've talked about some of those things before. It's leading by example. It's being kind and generous and peaceful on the playground. It's talking about people in a nice and respectful way. It's respecting their differences instead of putting them down because they don't look like us or act like us or sound like us. Well, where could we go from there? You see, I have this church beside me. It was a Christmas gift this year and I love it. But I also got to thinking, what if you and I were disciples, just like all of the other disciples? Our job then would be to learn what Jesus is talking about, what he taught us in the Bible, bring us closer to God, and then there's that other step, right? We have to bring other people along with us. So, what if this was you? And what if you decided that you were going to work really hard this week, or maybe this year? It could be our special project. We're going to bring other people to God. We're going to teach other people about what we learn in the Bible, and we're going to help them to get to know our God a little bit better. Well, so here you are, all alone. Now, God has a plan for you, but you're kind of young, and you don't know what the plan is. and you're feeling kind of lonely. There's just little old you. What could you possibly do by yourself? But what if you talk to somebody else? What if you talk to a friend or a neighbor? Talk to them about God's love for them. And then what if the two of you went and talked to somebody else? And then what if the three of you went and talked to a couple more friends? Before you know it, we might just have a whole great big group of people. And look what we could do. Follow me down here. What if you were at the very head of this line and you talked to all the people that you know? Look what might happen. Well, look at that. And it just so happened that you and your line of friends led everybody right to the church. Well, that's pretty good. That's something that we could be proud of, isn't it? All right, you remember the disciples and you remember our job this week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.